Let's begin by level setting on what Google Maps platform is all about. I think everybody appreciates the popularity of Google. Most people use it in everyday life, the consumer Google Maps product on your phone or wherever. And we have many clients around the country who are now using Google Maps for their applications, a wide variety of applications across both corporate and government markets. And as you can see from these stats that Google provides, it's one of the most popular platforms around the world. You're probably familiar with the way the API, the platform is organized, but if you're just getting started, it is broken into 3 fundamental groups of APIs. The Maps API, of course, to put a map into your application, put it on the screen, style it, including street view and satellite imagery, and put your data on top of it, and do sort of the basic map display visualization type of workflows. And then Routes, of course, is used to calculate distance and time for travel, as well as directions. And then the Places API taps into Google's something like 200 million record database of businesses around the world, and that's where we find the geocoding API, the autocomplete API, and those types of things. Now, you're probably getting started with Google Maps, and next slide, please. You're probably getting started with Google Maps, or maybe you've been working with a while and you've got some new use cases. Many times with our clients, we see some new teams come on board with organizations, and they're handed over a Google Maps project. And so that's what we want to help you with today's webinar. We've got 3 topics that we want to address: how to get set up with the console, define a project and get started with the API keys, how to understand and manage your usage and billing. And in particular, we're going to go into how you can tap into the Google Map discounts with higher volume usage. And then finally, how to optimize your projects around performance, cost, and value. We'll be talking about our consulting services and give you some ideas on how to get the most value out of Google Maps. So with that, I'll give it back to Aaron, who will introduce the next speaker.
All right, thank you, David, and we'll be hearing from David in the later part of our presentation as well. From here, I want to bring on Adam Jackson, who is going to walk us through the initial steps of setting up a project. So obviously, Adam, this is kind of where people are coming on board. They might be very new and they want to get started using these tools. So we're hoping what you can do today is just show us what that process is going to look like and kind of how you would walk a customer through this exact process.
Yep, sure thing. Thanks, Aaron. So like Aaron mentioned, we're going to be covering basically the 3 easy steps to getting started with a project on Google's Maps platform. That involves, creating the project, assigning roles, and then also choosing APIs and setting up keys. So when you're creating a project, and one thing to call out here is that before getting started, you want to make sure that you enable billing in order for your, the applications to work for you. So if online billing is not an option for you, we as a premier partner are able to offer some pretty flexible offline billing options as well. So happy to chat about that offline if you have questions. But what you're looking at here, once you've select a project, then you'll see the new project button as we have highlighted here, and that'll take you to the next screen. And here is where you're going to name your project. And then, like I mentioned previously about associating billing, you see that here. So one call out here is that you do have the freedom to name your project whatever you'd like. You also have the option to change the name of your project at any time, but keep in mind that you can't change the project ID, and whatever you name the project originally will influence the name of the project ID. So just keep that in mind. You can change the project name at any time, but the project ID will stay the same. So once you've got your name set up, you've got your billing set up, you can go ahead and hit create. And then we'll go to the next slide here. So this is the main, main screen for your project. And you'll notice, you'll see a add people to this project button, and adding people to projects is really easy. The main thing you need to keep in mind, if you want to go on to the next slide, is that when getting access to the project, you need to make sure that your email address is verified with Google. And you don't have to create a new Gmail or anything like that. You can verify any email address, a work email, personal email, whatever you'd like with Google. Very easy steps. They just send you a verification link and you're good to go. So once you've got a verified user here, you can then go in and select which role you would like them to have. And you might not necessarily want everyone in your org to have owner rights, which allows them to basically do anything as far as enabling APIs, creating keys. You might want to give someone, editor, browser or viewer access, just so they don't have, the ability to make changes if they don't need to. So one of the really awesome things about the Google Cloud Platform is that it not only allows you to manage your Google Cloud accounts, but also your Google Maps accounts in one place. So you'll notice in the menu drop down here, there are some Google Cloud APIs and functionalities listed. We also are a Google Cloud partner as well. So if you ever want to get started with the cloud, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to help with that. But in this section, we're going to focus on enabling some APIs. So you'll notice the APIs and services button, and once you click that, go to the next screen, please. It'll take you to the main APIs and services dashboard. And up at the top, you'll notice an enable and APIs and services button. So if you'll click that, it'll then bring you here and you'll be taken to the full library of all of the Google Cloud and Google Maps APIs. And obviously today we're focusing on Maps, and enabling APIs is very, very easy. All you need to do is just select one. So if you want to go to the next slide, you'll notice there's an enable button, and all you do is just click enable and the API is enabled. And on the flip side of that, if you want to disable an API, it's also very easy to do that as well. It'll just say, instead of enable, it'll say disable. So very easy to get started, setting up enabling APIs.
To throw a note in here for everybody, that documentation tab you see as well is a great place to really dive in on how to configure and use each individual API. Great library of information there for our customers who want to get a little more insight on the project setup phase.
Yep, great call out there, Aaron. Thank you for that. So now that we've enabled an API, it's time to create a key. It's kind of it's a two-pronged approach, right? You can't do one without the other. If you create a key and don't enable APIs, it won't work. If you enable APIs and don't create a key, it won't work. So make sure you do both to make sure that you're on the right track to, using the service. So creating credentials is very easy as well. You have the create credentials option highlighted there, as well as the create credentials button. And then once you click that button, you'll notice a drop down and you'll see API key, which is mainly what we're focused on here, but you also have the option for the OAuth client ID or the service account. If you have any questions about any of that stuff, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to discuss it further, but again, we're just going to focus on the API key. So once you select API key, your key has been created. Like I said, very, very easy. And you'll also notice that as soon as you do that, Google will automatically alert you to restrict your key. And now restricting your key is basically a way to make sure that your key is secure in case it were to ever get in the wrong hands. So let's look at what we can do to restrict our keys here. All right, so now that we've created the key, we're about to set up some restrictions. You'll also notice at the top there's a name for your API key. As it says here, we suggest renaming this to something more descriptive, maybe the name of the team using it or the name of the application that the key is being used in, just to make sure in case you have multiple keys, you know exactly what it's being used for or who it's being used by. And as far as the restrictions go, you can restrict your key to only work on a certain website, a certain IP address, a certain Android or iOS app, or you can also restrict your key to only work on a certain API as well. So again, it's just an added layer of security to make sure that if your key were to ever get in the wrong hands, that they won't be able to use it and generate a bunch of unnecessary charges or something like that. So I know I've gone through this fairly quickly, but as you can see, it's a really simple process to get started using the service. And then, our job here is to help you be successful on the platform. So whenever you're ready to get started, feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to, guide you through the process. So I'll pass it back to Aaron.
Thank you, Adam. That was a really great overview of not only the processes, but some of the common pitfalls we see that are a little easy to maybe miss when you're creating one of these projects for the first time. So from here, we'd like to move on to our next chapter in the presentation, and that's about understanding billing costs and optimization on the platform. And in this section, we're going to bring on Anna Rogers, another one of our customer account managers, to give us a more in-depth look at what the reporting, what the billing, and even how to maybe estimate your annual spending and costs on the platform are going to look like. So Anna, why don't you walk us through kind of the 3 steps that we've laid out here for understanding this component of the Google Cloud Console.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. So I'll be looking at primarily how to break down your usage by in the spend by project or by the API, and as well as creating various custom reports that would be the most beneficial for you all to view your usage and spend. Next slide. Although one of the benefits of going through AppGeo is that we do manage your billing account. However, it's always good to understand your usage and spend so that you can come in here and view this anytime you might want. And how you get to your billing is by going to the navigation menu, which is going to be on the top left-hand side of the console. And then you'll click on billing. So once you get to billing, it's going to bring you to this overview page, which automatically defaults to showing you the current month's spend, as well as an estimated forecast number, which a forecast number isn't always going to be extremely accurate. And we tend to see that number is a lot higher at the start of the month, just because since you do have to refresh Google's data every 30 days, the usage, like I said, tends to be higher at the start of the month. So if you come in here on November 2nd, the console projects that you'll spend $20,000 this month, don't freak out, just because, like I said, it's not going to be extremely accurate at the start of the month. Next slide. Yes, so in order to see your usage more in depth or more detailed and also a more customized way, is you can do so by going to the reports. It's still going to automatically default to show you your current month spend as well as that forecasted number. And then it's also going to automatically show you to group by project. Next slide. So separate projects are great just so you can see maybe which department is spending what within your own organization, and then to view them all at one place. Or it's important to create separate projects, since unfortunately you can't break down the spend by API key. And it's also can be useful to see who is costing you all maybe the most or the least. And then as you can see in this picture, this customer has 5 separate projects, and they're able to determine, okay, project 1 has spent X amount, project 2, X amount, and so on and so on. So if they're needing to invoice a different department internally, they can easily do so by seeing, again, who is spending what. And then another helpful tip is that we can assist in bundling your projects to be all under one billing account. So you might have separate projects and have separate billing accounts attached to those projects within your organization. And we're able to bundle them all under one primary billing account. And you can, again, see all projects and see who's spending what. And the main benefit is that you can help each other take advantage of the volume tier pricing that Google offers. And then you can see everything easily in one place. And then with us, you would just have one quote and one invoice, which is always a bonus for everyone involved.
Absolutely. So let's dive a little more into that pricing question, just for those who maybe haven't seen how the Google Maps platform is built. And you did mention that savings that can be realized with larger volume usage. Why don't you walk us through a little bit about the pricing and then talk about that volume discount aspect as well?
Yeah, definitely. So we do frequently get asked this question, like you said, how the pricing works and how the volume tiers work. And as you can see from this screenshot that is taken directly from the Google developers site, that each API has a separate cost associated with it. So for example, the dynamic maps starts out at $7 per 1,000 calls, whereas the geocoding API starts out at $5 per 1,000 calls. And for the tier pricing, you do have to complete each tier and pay that price before you move on to the next tier. So for example, if you're doing 500,000 dynamic map calls per month, The first 100,000 calls will be at that $7 price point, so $700, and then your next 400,000 calls to get you to a total of 500,000 total would cost you $2,240. So in total, 500,000 dynamic map calls per month would cost you $2,940. And then if you were going to exceed the 500,000 calls per month, you would only be able to get the higher tier volume pricing by going through a premier partner like AppGeo, and we can provide you that discounted pricing. And oftentimes it can save anywhere between 15 to 70%. Just kind of depends on which API you're using as well as the volume. And then another question we do get asked pretty frequently is if you go through a premier partner, do you still get access to that $200 credit that Google gives you each month? And yes, you still do. And it's going to be per billing account. So then on the screen, you can also see that you can do up to 28,000 dynamic map calls each month before you exceed $200, or 40,000 geocoding calls before you exceed that $200 credit. It does get a little bit trickier when you're doing multiple API calls, just because you can't do 28,000 dynamic map and 40,000 geocoding calls. It would be maybe 10,000 dynamic maps and 40,000 geocoding calls, or so on and so on.
For sure. And I think one of the ways that AppGeo has been able to help is, these APIs are rarely used in isolation. It's often an application that will have two or more in combination, so we can help you find the most efficient way to both estimate your spend and get the best discount possible by working with you and planning your kind of annual budgeting.
Yeah, so in order to see how many API calls you are doing per month, you can go back to that billing report and then go to the filters on the right-hand side. And then all you will need to do is change the group by to, instead of it saying by project, just change it to SKU, and then you can scroll below the graph and you can see how many API calls you're doing for that particular month. So for instance, you can see this customer, they're doing about 1.6 million geocoding calls, and then about 333,000 dynamic map calls, and so on. That way, you can see if someone's asking you for your projected usage for the month, you can come in here and easily view this. Another different custom view you can do is by changing the time range. So if you're wanting to see maybe how much you've spent so far this year, or how much you've spent in total since we've had you as a customer on our billing account, is you can go to the filters again on the right-hand side, and then change the time range to a custom range. In particular, or this customer in particular, we've had them since December 31st of 2018. So I backdated the date to go back to December 2018. And then the to date is this month. And then at the top, you'll be able to see how much in total you have spent. And then to make that view a little less scary, and this is my favorite way to view the usage, just because it's a lot cleaner, is that you can change the group by instead of SKU to no grouping at all. So you can see the total cost per month. And then above the graph, you can change the daily to a monthly view, and then change the line graph to a bar graph. Like I said, this way it's just a lot cleaner looking, and in my opinion, easier to read. And then I kept the same date, so you can still see the total, how much was spent at the top. And this is just a way to easily see maybe trends, like if there's any seasonality, or if the usage has increased and there's a spike, or if there's decreased. As you can see, this customer spend has started to decrease around March of this year, and it's pretty consistently stayed in the lower range, which to us, it's a red flag, just because it can indicate different usage and traffic to your site. And we'll alert you and try to help analyze any data and uncover any trends, just to make sure that usage is supposed to be like that and there isn't anything wrong where it's more difficult to view the map or anything of that nature.
Absolutely. And as kind of data analytic people here at AppGeo, we love uncovering those trends and analyzing patterns. We have some pretty interesting stories about the ways we've diagnosed spikes, whether it comes in at 2 a.m. and all of a sudden the traffic's through the roof, or what happens around Black Friday when everyone starts coming onto your site all at once, or even things like the wildfires out in California causing spikes with some of our customers. So all sorts of different things that we can help you understand in more detail about your application and just unlock some of those secrets that otherwise might be leaving you scratching your head. So from here, I want to bring back, and also thank you, Anna, very much for going into that in such detail. I think it's all very helpful. From here, I'd love to bring back David Holmes to give us a little bit of an overview of where AppGeo can help you further with your applications, and a couple of the ways that we've been doing that for customers like yourselves in the past couple of months. So Dave, want to come back to us?
Yes, thank you, Aaron. So you now understood how to set up the projects and a little bit about understanding billing and usage. And as you start to prepare to build an application, or perhaps you have an application in place, the next topic we want to hit is how do you get the most value out of your application, and how can you identify the best practices around using Google Maps? So we offer a consulting program we call Spatial IQ. And it's focused around helping our clients best practices around the APIs, in particular looking at usage optimization. We have a lot of experience in building simple and effective user experiences around location intelligence, and we can help you with that. We can help you navigate the Google Terms of Services. They are written in fairly broad language and are subject to interpretation, and we can help you walk through that and understand your use case and help you understand what the implications are. We can help you with geospatial tool guidance in general, as well as looking at cloud resourcing and deployment. On the right-hand side, we've got a little example of a consulting engagement we did for the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services earlier this year, helping them build out a vaccine locator application, which was a quite successful project. Next slide, please. Now, just in case you are considering to outsource your development project around Google Maps, that's also something that we can help you with. As indicated earlier, we've been a Google partner for 7 years now. We've built a number of applications and host them on behalf of clients. On the right-hand side, we've got an example from our project we did for Rutgers University. This is a campus map application, as well as internal for them, a facility management application, all built on Google. And then on the lower right-hand side is a traveler information system application called Drive Texas that we built for Texas DOT. So we've got a lot of experience in all aspects of working with Google Maps. And if you'd like to add a team with years of experience to build out your app, we'd be glad to talk to you. And in particular, we focus around building apps that are easy to use, high performance, and quite scalable, running on the Google Cloud. So it's an excellent way to extend your team to bring us on. Next slide, please. But what I want to focus on, and under this topic, is our consulting program, and that's the Spatial IQ program. And I'd like to focus on 3 aspects that we're finding we're helping a lot of our clients with, and it's becoming very, very helpful for them to realize the maximum value for their operations out of the Google Maps platform. First one being build a simple user experience. This is all about decluttering your app and make it intuitive for your users. So with that, I'd like Aaron to switch over to a live demo. This is a application we built a few months ago for the Northwest Regional Telehealth Resource Center. They are providing basically a services locator for medical facilities, currently representing 3 states in the Northwest. As you can see here, it's going to be growing to 6 states altogether. There's about just shy of 2,000 medical facilities that are represented in this service locator. And we built this for them as a project, and then we use it and hold it up as an example of best practices around the use of Google Maps. And I want to use this application to illustrate some of the best practices that we can help you with in your implementation. So I'm going to ask Aaron to start by entering where the user is located. You can either hit the little icon up there and it'll pick up the client device location automatically, or you can key in a name of a place or an address, and you can see that it's using autocomplete to provide a selection of named locations, and the user picked one, Aaron picked one, and the map immediately zooms in on, in this case, Bozeman, Montana. The default distance to search is set at 5 miles, and we see a collection of medical facilities. The little symbols, which is all configurable, represent either a telehealth facility or an in-person facility. And Aaron, if you'll select both, you can see different types of symbols that are used, and again, all configurable. So it makes it a very intuitive application for the users looking for medical facilities. Aaron, if you'll bump the search distance up a little bit, maybe to 10 miles, and you can see that we zoom out, we look again and pull in a few more, we'll bring it to 25 miles, and the user can make that search as wide as they need to find what they want to look for. And then we've added a filter here on the type of service that the user can search for. First of all, whether it's a telehealth or an in-person facility or both, we'll leave that at both. And then on the service, there's a list of medical services that the data for each of these locations has stored. And of course, this is all coming from the Northwest Telehealth organization. And Aaron, if you'll pick gastroenterology, for example, the map immediately updates and shows just those locations. So if you'll zoom in and why don't you select one of those when the user says, well, that one looks pretty interesting, you can get some more information about that particular facility. And then if you'll switch to the list view, this is quite often a tabular view of the same locations that have met the filter criteria. Now we see these all the time with our clients, and some clients have the list view and the map view side by side. This particular client wanted to have it as a separate page, as you see it here. But this is very useful because now the user can say, okay, I want to select one of these and I'd like to see the how do I get there? And so we hit this little driving icon, and up comes the consumer Google Maps, automatically centered on this area with the from location where the user is located to the particular facility that they selected, with the route shown, the driving distance. You can get the driving directions, all the kinds of things that one can do in consumer Google Maps, and all very intuitive, and as you saw, very fast. If you'll go back to the telehealth and go back to the map view, one last thing I want to show, if you'll go out to any service and go out to the full extent, 500 miles, this is about somewhere 1,850 or so locations. I want you to notice how fast the displays are here. We have built this thing to be high performance using the Google Map APIs. And when Aaron changes or picks a particular service, notice how quickly the locations are filtered and the map is updated. Likewise, if he drops it back to 250 miles and then goes back up to a 500, the performance is always under a second in updating the display. Thank you, Aaron. If you'll go back to the slide deck, please. So again, that was all about simplifying the user interface, and then talked a little bit about performance, what you want to achieve. And this is not always possible, just depending on what your use case is. But for applications like a locator, which are very popular with Google Maps, you need to be thinking about your displays being able to be refreshed in under a second on average. It should really never take more than a second. And we can help you implement through our consulting program on how to achieve this kind of performance. Next slide, please. Then in terms of best practices, and in particular optimizing, this is all about making sure you're getting the most value out of Google Maps and saving money. The Google Maps documentation is extensive. It can lead you in a lot of great directions, but there's a lot to it. And there are multiple ways to implement different use cases. And this is where we have built up a serious expertise in helping our clients pick the best practices around the APIs, and in particular, the ones that can optimize usage. So I've got 3 ideas here that I like to talk about that we can help you with. Number 1 is to avoid what we call redundant geocoding. If you're geocoding the same location over and over again on every user session in your application, there are better ways to do that. And we can help you save money here and avoid redundant geocoding, and at the same time, stay within the Google terms of services. So there are ways to do that, and we can help you with our consulting program. Another common problem that we find with our clients is with the autocomplete. Again, in the documentation, there are multiple ways to achieve the autocomplete. That's where Aaron typed in the name up there, and it showed a list of possible towns, and he selected Bozeman, Montana. Very common use case in Google Map applications. There is a very common way of doing this, which ends up in what we call a double charge. You pay for the autocomplete and you pay for a places details calls. And that can easily be avoided, and we can help you get through that misstep. The last one is you really do want to minimize the number of Maps API calls for 2 reasons. One, to make it as fast as possible. You don't want to pay for that round trip back to the Google server for another Maps API call. And also, obviously, to minimize your usage. This telehealth application only uses 1 Maps API call per user session. And you can see that contributed to the speed of the application as well as minimizing the cost. Speaking of costs, this telehealth application is going to cost, on average, less than 3 cents per user session. So it is really fine-tuned to save the client organization money on the Google Map costs. And as Anna spoke, as the number of user sessions go up per month, and therefore the number of API calls up, it can unlock those higher discount volume tiers. So in certain cases, depending on the amount of usage, it can be even less than 3 cents per user session. Next slide, please. One last topic that we are finding very popular with our clients is to help you understand how to style your maps to fit your brand. Google came out with this really clever map style, very powerful map style configuration capability to control the colors, control the amount, the line styles, the polygon styles, all those types of things, and control the amount of information that is displayed in the base map, like points of interest. You can limit that by category and those kinds of things. And we're finding clients are taking advantage of this either to simplify the user interface and also to align the map with the organization's brand. Very popular, especially with our corporate clients, as you can imagine. So this is a very popular capability that's now all available through the console. This is also a development cost-saving idea. You can do this kind of stylization through HTML programming, and obviously that takes a lot more time and skill sets. But now Google has offered this. It can all be done through the console, through a configuration capability. And again, we can help you navigate how to do that.